Hastings Plan Commission meeting for March 11th, 2024. Regular meeting. Call the meeting to order. All right, first up is the oath of office for Commissioner Teichen for his next term. Stand. All right, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Chris Teichen,
Do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Hastings, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a planning commissioner for the City of Hastings,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Hastings, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Planning Commission for the City of Hastings,
counties of Dakota and Washington and State of Minnesota,
counties of Dakota and Washington and State of Minnesota,
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
according to the best of my ability and understanding.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back. All right, moving on. Next one is the election of the Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair. And I think in the past, what we've done is, if anybody wants to nominate themselves or somebody else, we'll take discussion on that. Otherwise, I will be glad to continue in my role as chair.
The only requirement to serve as the chair or vice chair is that you've been on the commission for a year, but anyone can make the motion and vote.
Okay, and then Commissioner Hubbard, do you want to?
No, someone was ready to go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Commissioner Peters, go ahead.
I was just going to make a motion for Commissioner Messina to be chair and Commissioner Hallberg for vice chair. Do we have a vice chair?
We do.
Okay.
Yep, okay, so we have a motion on the table for myself to remain as chair and Commissioner Hallberg as vice chair. Do we have any further discussion?
I'll second it.
Okay, second, Commissioner Teichen. Any new discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries. I thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Hallberg, congratulations to you as well. Thank you very much. So look forward to another good year. All right, approval of the minutes from January 8th for those of us that were in attendance. Or were there any corrections or additions? No? Okay, if not, we'll consider those to be approved. And welcome to Commissioner Swedin. I think this is her second meeting, right? All right. All right. Next up is public hearing. We do not have any public hearings, so the next one will be other actions. Storage work, site plan 2024-10, storage rental facility 2489 Spiral Boulevard. Justin Fortney will have the staff report on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Messina. The current owner recently purchased the property in blue at the bottom of the screen from the City of Hastings. It's between the property he owned and Spiral Boulevard. Purchasing that property allowed him to have legal access to Spiral Boulevard from his property, and it also allowed him to have the minimum acres required to split the property in half, because there's a 10-acre minimum in agricultural district. At the time, the lot was just over 19 acres, and that included property that went to the center line of the road that would have to be platted for right-of-way. At that time, he also received approval for septic systems, as the property is not served by any city utilities. He was at the time proposing to construct his home on the northern lot and sell the southern parcel. It appears that the northern lot has been sold, and the subject site plan we're looking at is for the southern lot, which is that orange lot with the X, in addition to the blue triangle. Those properties have all been combined and platted as two separate lots. The site was mostly wooded with a mixture of trees and scrub. Recently, the areas of the level ground were clear cut. During review of a proposed development, A tree inventory is taken where there's large stands of trees, and a preservation plan is required in line with the city's tree preservation guidelines. At this time, this was never done. The applicant for the site plan states that the current property owner who is selling the property removed the trees. The tree preservation guidelines are not adopted as an ordinance requirement, but it is a tool for planning sites for development and construction to plan logically around natural resources and not remove trees that don't need to be removed for construction. The applicant recently developed 2 city-owned lots in Industrial Park at 3001 Lightbourne Court and 2030 Spiral Boulevard with similar storage units. Let's go to the next picture here. This shows the configuration of the parcel we are looking at. The proposed use is allowed by zoning, and it's in line with the designation land use of the comprehensive plan. In the agricultural district, an allowable use is storage rental facilities subject to site plan review. These are some photographs taken. The top one is from July of '23, and then the bottom one is current conditions. You can see the trees have been removed. Obviously, the time of year is different. There's leaf-on conditions on the top picture and not the bottom one. And then here's another picture from a little further to the south. This is a site plan proposal for the storage units. The building setback requirements in the agricultural district is 20 feet from the property line in the front, which would be Spiral Boulevard, and 10 feet on the sides. There's quite a bit more than that on the side along Glendale Avenue, because there's a Glendale Road, I think it is, because of the drive aisle there. And then most of the buildings are quite a bit further back, except for the first building to the west, which is on the bottom of this sheet. It's at the minimum setback from this property line along Spiral Boulevard. It's 20 feet. As far as vehicular access and circulation goes, it's fairly adequate. As you can see, the site is designed to have a very large drive aisle near these larger buildings. And then most of the buildings can be navigated around, except for the second one up from the bottom, those 2 buildings. As you can see, there's not a way to drive through over there. So when you come in from the driveway, to get into that area, you have to make a very sharp right, which is the only issue that presently we've identified on the site. We had discussions with the applicant about a couple of issues. One of them was there was a very short queuing area for vehicles that would pull up to the gate as you'd enter. The applicant stated that he doesn't believe that there's going to be queuing because vehicles will come into the site so quickly. With an automated gate, they could come in. But staff was concerned that if there was an issue, there was not room for a second car and it would be out into the road. So the applicant was able to reconfigure the driveway to be a little bit longer to allow quite a bit more space. There's, it looks like 52 feet. There might be some boulevard area too that would allow some additional vehicle stacking there. The other issue is that sharp turn. Once a vehicle would be coming into that driveway, they're going to have to make that sharp right turn to get into this the large area of the 3 buildings back there. And they had provided a turning radius plan for a fire truck, which shows that the truck can make that turn and get in there and make turns throughout the site. And I had written the staff report with noting that the stacking had been alleviated and that there was a turning radius chart showing that a fire truck can make that turn. Having some more conversations with the engineering department, we came to the conclusion that we don't understand why the drive aisle can't be, or the driveway can't be realigned slightly to just reduce that sharp turning radius there, considering it's the only way to get into those areas. And the engineering department had some different ideas of easy ways to just slightly adjust the driveway without totally relocating it and having to deal with any kind of major grade issues. One of them was to just locate it just a little, shift it over to the north a little bit to smooth out that right turn radius. That would be the one on the left here. And then the one on the right would change the angle of that driveway coming in from Spiral Boulevard. And this is a landscape plan showing the planting of the trees and the shrubs and showing the landscape turf area. And another thing that I wanted to mention was I have some, well, I can do it on this one here. There's going to be a phasing plan rather than building all these buildings right on the outset. They're proposing to build the phase one, which would be the first row of buildings on the west. And I'm probably confusing you, but on this picture, that would be the main large buildings on the north. And then that would be approximately from this spring to spring 2025. And then the following phase would be June 2025 to May of 2026. That would be the one row of two buildings to the east. That would be on the other side of that wide drive aisle there. And then the final phase, which would be the bottom two buildings here, would be June 2026 to May 2027. Typically, our site plans would expire after a year, but as long as they started the phasing plan and started construction, we would propose to allow the phasing plan as long as the site is developed per the approved proposal, that it would not expire until after that May 2027 date. We've done that on some other site plans that are approved with a scheduled plan. The tree schedule would require 80 trees based on the perimeter size and the amount of pavement on the site. And they're proposing 80 trees. Some of the trees are more of a compact variety, which we do allow as long as they have a mature height of 10 feet at least. And then 65 shrubs are also required and proposed on the site. This is an existing facility that the applicant had done. This one is at Spiral Boulevard, 2030. There's going to be also fencing around the site. The decorative fence, I don't know if we have a sheet on that, but I was imagining something similar to this would be along the front of the site, Spiral Boulevard, and then around the side, Glendale Road, and the opposite side of the front would be a black vinyl coated chain link fence. And then on the west side, up against the hill, would be a galvanized chain link fence. This is the architectural elevations of the structures. I have a couple printouts you can pass out just because the color might be a little bit better on those, but it's similar to what's in the staff report. It's showing, I think the colors would be similar to the other sites. One of the differences, I believe, is the roof on this is going to be a product called Galvalume, which is going to, the applicant says would have a light grayish, light tannish, or brownish color. These are pretty flat roofs, and he didn't think it would be very visible from the ground. I'm not sure if there'll be much visibility if the grade's different. I know as you come down Spiral Boulevard, it's a little bit higher, and there's also houses up on the hill. But my original concern was that it would be a highly reflective galvanized material, but he had stated that that's not the case with this Galvalume product. And then the photometric plan that we have shows that there's acceptable light levels at the property line under 1 foot candle, which is required for commercial areas. The only exception is on the very corner where that building is 20 feet from the property line. It gets up a little bit higher, probably, I had to scale it, but it's probably about 1.5 foot candles. But there, I looked and there's a street light in that area anyway, so I don't know that that would be any cause for concern. Especially, this isn't abutting a residential neighborhood in close proximity to there. The light fixtures are all wall packs and reflecting downward. That was the last one. And then we did meet with the police department and went over some of their security protocols, and it seemed like the police department was okay with all their protocols that were in place and would continue any kind of conversations in the future with any of those issues that could arise. So staff would like to recommend approval of the plan if the turning radius could be improved, or there's a compelling reason from the applicants on why those plans or alternate ideas couldn't be developed to reduce that sharp turn after you come into the site. On Friday, I emailed the applicant those suggestions. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I'm sure they would be willing to go over those now. But with that, I can answer any questions from the commission, or they could speak with the applicant.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Who would like to start? Commissioner Halbert?
Justin, just for clarification on the architectural standards, the understanding that everything will be allowed without the subsequent site plan approvals if schedule timing is followed. So there's no way to deviate in that time as long as they're staying on the correct schedule. They don't have to come in front of us or any changes to.
Yeah, as long as they are constructing what was approved, then, and in line with what's in the staff report, they wouldn't have to come for any subsequent approvals.
Okay, I just
For
wanted
that
to double,
timeline.
Okay, I just want to double check. And then my other thought was my concern was the fire department trying to get their trucks in. So, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Tyken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When does the landscaping have to be done by?
Well, if it's not put in by the end of the season, it would have to have an escrow account set up for it. So, depending on well, I guess the landscaping could all be put in right away because I don't think, I guess that would be up to them if they wanted to put it all in or if they wanted to escrow it.
So they would have to put it in by the end of the season? I mean, they have a year to do it?
Well, I mean, by the end of the season after it's finished. So if this first building is supposed to be done by spring next year, then that season they'd have to put it in.
Okay. So it's based on when they complete the first,
Correct.
and they have to put 100% of it in?
Well, I'm not familiar with a phasing plan. I don't know that it's ever come up before. But it's going to have to be either in or escrowed. I think since they are going to be putting in the pond and all the major improvements, it would have to be in right away.
Okay.
Plus, I don't know if they'd want to have an escrow account open for that many years.
Okay, so they would have to escrow by the end of the next growing season?
Right, correct.
Unless they put it in, okay. I just wanted to make sure it was done in a timely fashion and not wait till all the buildings are up, in case there's a delay there. And then, do we ever talk about snow removal on these? Can they push snow into that pond? Is that allowed?
I mean, yeah, I don't think there's any ordinances against that.
Okay. And then I'd be supportive of adding a condition in there to work with engineering on improving that driveway. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Tyken. Commissioner Peters?
My main question is if the part that goes in first is like when we look on the screen here, it's that bottom row, that's the phase one. Looking at the site, the pictures right now, because all of those trees have been removed already, what condition for the next up to 3 years will the remaining part of the site be in? You know, because right now it just looks like it's just dirt, and I understand like the perimeter of the site must have erosion control. Is that during the construction, or is that afterward? And what is happening with that space in the next 2 to 3 years when there's nothing there?
Well, it wouldn't be allowed to be dirt, but I think the applicant can come up and talk to what they would do in that area during the phasing.
Yeah.
Do you want? Do you want?
Yeah,
would
if
you like
you're
to
gonna-
answer
Yeah, I think
that
that'd be
question?
helpful, 'cause that's a lot of-
We're gonna have more questions, so I think it'd be easier if you just come up to the podium here and just, go ahead and state your name and so forth, and your address there.
Chad Smorava, W12322 888th Avenue, River Falls, Wisconsin. So is there a pointer? Well, so on phase one, the driveway will be set up with everything west of this building. Everything east of that building, all of the excavation and site
I
work.
don't think most of them could see
Oh,
it. Would you
sure.
be able to use the
Absolutely.
mouse? It's
Thank
not the
you.
greatest, but I think it'll help.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not a tech person, but I can do that. Okay, so I'll try to move slow. So does everybody see my cursor by the driveway? Okay, so underneath it, or is west, so this is west. So that will all be complete with curb and asphalt and landscaping. And coming right across here everything below that arrow will be installed, so asphalt. And that needs to be done for water regulations. Everything here to the east of my little arrow, or going this way, will all of the excavation and site work will be done on month one, let's say, for the entire site. So that will all be done, and so it'll all be to the correct contour, and then what will happen is it's gonna get overseeded, so it'll look kind of like your backyard or, you know, something of that nature. And it will remain then in that state with the fences up, so like he said, the decorative fence. And I think we can take under very good consideration that we would put in the trees then along Glendale. Because like I said, we will have all the excavation done, we'll have all of our points set on the site, which again are required just for the Minnesota water quality standards, which will be meeting code, whereas right now, for example, it's not that this isn't meeting the rules, it's just because it's in an undeveloped state, but when we get done here, probably June, it's going to be a lot better, higher water quality standards being met with water cleanliness than is there right now. Our engineer has indicated that. So as a passerby, you would see our fence up, you'd see the gate up, decorative gate, you'd see the landscape on the hill, because that's where a majority of it will be going, and I'll take my cursor, when I say the hill, it's primarily the piece that the city sold to the current owner. It's a beautiful hillside, and so we're gonna be looking to extend that down, if you will, with much landscape and trees. So our intent is that it will look visually appealing, because if it doesn't, people don't see it as secure, they don't feel comfortable with it. If it's not appearing to be similarly maintained to kind of like their yard, then people's trust in us evaporates and we don't have a business.
Oh, keep going. Yeah, the floor is yours.
I have a couple of follow-up questions to that. And one of these questions might be for you, Justin. I don't see, while I hear what you're saying, I don't see that documented in here. So there's nothing that would hold, the project accountable for doing that. Because what I'm hearing you say is that it'll be graded and then overseeded. I think that would be important to have in here. You have very valid reasons, but it's not in the plan. So there's not really anything to hold you to that. And
We're
then,
very happy to do that.
okay. And then, Justin, this is, I think, a question for you, but, or possibly for you as well. Would it then, if it's overseeded, would that then be maintained so that it doesn't, I don't know if some of the nuisance ordinances would come over that, if it was overgrown with weeds and things like that, would nuisance ordinances apply to, like, once it is overseeded, to keep it well-maintained during the 3-year project?
Yeah, in the conditions in the staff report, number 2 and 3 are applicable to your questions. Number 2 says that all disturbed areas of the property shall be stabilized with rooting vegetation cover to eliminate erosion control problems. And as far as maintaining that vegetative cover, that is something that is in several ordinances that must be maintained and kept cut. Although, in the past, this site has been pretty wild, but with more trees than anything. Number 3, any unaccompanied site work must be escrowed at 125% of the estimated value prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy. So that's where I was saying, any of the landscaping that they don't put in, they have to put up 125% escrow account for that.
Yeah, then I guess my question would be for number 2, there's just no timeline associated with that, so like all disturbed areas have to be stabilized with rooting vegetative cover. Does that begin immediately or once the project is done? Just because I wouldn't want it to erode or anything during that build phase, so
I can
that
answer.
was my
So
question.
we will probably finish up excavation, which is the site work, less the trees, probably finishing that up by mid-June. And so we would be then doing the seeding immediately thereafter, like immediately. And that would have to be done before we can remove the water erosion control barriers along.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions before I dive into mine? Any other questions? Okay, I have some questions. So, under the existing condition paragraph here, can we go back in time for just a bit here? I just want to find out what happened here where the tree inventory, this was never done. What wasn't done exactly? Where it says under existing condition, during review of proposed development, a tree inventory and preservation plans required in line with the city tree preservation guidelines, this was never done. The current property owner who is selling the property removed all the trees. So I'm trying to figure out, what does that mean exactly? Because I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, on what happened with this property when all of a sudden everything was just gone and there wasn't anything there. I mean, I live in the area.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we have this gaping hole and I don't remember that being part of the original. I thought we were talking about a house on the one side and houses on the other. And so I need to go back in time a little bit and kind of figure out how we got from the original reason for the sale, purchase, to this, before I can go on with my other additional questions about the actual site plan itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a surprise to staff. We had been talking with the property owner for quite a while, and it was always his plan to build his house there on the north and sell the other parcel, assuming for another house. I think that was kind of the way it was discussed. The last time I remember talking to him, he wanted to know if he could build his garage first and then his house. And then he had asked prior to that if he could clean up the site. He said there was some old mining equipment and stuff that's been dumped. And he said he just wanted to clean up the site and then kind of clear the area where the house would go. And then I started getting calls from people with commercial interests in the property, and I found out that the lots were for sale. And none of them were interested in buying it for a home site. And then I went to take pictures for this review, and that's when I saw that all the trees were gone.
Okay, so that was one of my first concerns, was how we got to this point today. Okay. Well, nothing we can do. I mean, the trees are gone, so they're gone. But the second thing is this driveway. So I've lived in the area now for 18 years. I've been on Spiral Boulevard in the wintertime. Here's my concern. I know we're worried about fire trucks turning radius once you get in the lot. However, Spiral Boulevard in the morning usually is iced over pretty good. And anybody who wants to go down that hill, it's a steep hill if you've never been on Spiral Boulevard. It's a fairly steep hill. It's not a gradual descent. And there's a curve. There's two curves in there. My concern is if you have somebody going down that hill and they want to take a left and take a sharp left into this facility, and they have to wait for that gate, and they choose to wait on Spiral Boulevard and somebody comes down behind them, they're going to slide right into them. I have slid down that hill many times. I know how to navigate it because I'm used to it. The other issue is traffic on Glendale Avenue and Spiral Boulevard has increased exponentially over the last few years. And I don't know, it has to probably do with 61. People have figured out the shortcut around. And when you come down that intersection, you have to time it just right because traffic is not coming down that hill on Glendale at 45 miles an hour. From 316, they're coming down at 65, 70, I know, because I've seen it, which means you have to time that turn just right. When traffic's coming to the north on Glendale, If they take a left onto Spiral Boulevard in the wintertime, you cannot just come to a stop if somebody is waiting to queue up or waiting to turn in there and then expect to make it up that hill. You have to go. And so you have to just keep going because that's what gives you momentum to get up that hill. Otherwise, it's going to be dangerous. When cars are coming around there's nothing to slow them down to make that turn, and they're usually accelerating by the time this driveway, by the time where you get to this driveway. Fire trucks, I don't know if you've ever driven one of those. I've driven motor coaches, buses before. The turning races on those are tight. You're not gonna get that tight. Those take a lot longer. I can't even begin to tell a fire truck pulling into there in any way, shape, or form to get in there, but I think that whole entrance thing needs to be redone. Your entrance is coming in off of a hill, so that's an issue for me. So I just want to make sure that goes on the record as that. The other thing too is the houses, when I think of something that makes sense, the other two storage facilities that you have, by the way, look very nice. They were done very well, very tasteful. The landscaping, the architecture was great. The placement was perfect. They fit. You don't notice any issues. A couple bright lights there where the sign is make it a little bit hard to turn off of Voyager Parkway onto Spiral Boulevard because that bright light's coming in your eye when you make that turn, but that's fine. But they're very tastefully done and they fit where they go. But now we have storage. We have the houses up on Glacier, then we have the houses up on Voyager. We've got the one or two houses that are across the street from where this is gonna be. And then you've got the property just to the north of that. And now we wanna just kinda put the storage facility right in the middle, and it just doesn't seem to fit for me personally. I know that it's agricultural compound, I got that, so we're good. So let's dispense of all that. It's a suitable use for the property, but it's just, I think we're just cramming too much in there. I don't think that this property is the right place for this much commercial building, especially where that driveway is. And you expressed concerns about the driveway several times throughout this presentation, so obviously it's been on people's minds. So I have a real concern with just, in general, this site plan as being adequate for this lot, just because of the way it's designed. I think it's just too much. And I do have another concern too with the roof. If you do live up on Voyager Parkway, or excuse me, Rushmore Drive, if you live on Rushmore Drive, your house used to overlook woods and more woods and then a river. Now it's going to overlook 4 storage roofs, and how reflective are they going to be? There's no guarantee. So I don't know. I just have I have so many more questions about how we got to this point from the original reason why we approved this in the first place to this. And I know we always don't look at intent and things can change, and I get that part. But this is such a dramatic change from the original plan or the intent that I'm having a real issue with that. So I'd be happy to hear anybody else with any additional comments, but do you understand where I'm coming from? We got to a point that none of us saw coming. I mean, it was,
We're in that camp as well. We
Yeah.
were equally as surprised,
yeah.
kind of learning,
Yeah.
learning a few things, in matter of fact.
But that driveway is a real concern. I know that intersection. It's getting busier and busier. You're gonna have issues there, and you're not gonna get a fire truck to make a right turn in there. You're just not going to. Not anything bigger than maybe a little rescue truck. That'd be about it, but that's my concerns at this point. So I'm happy to hear my other commissioners if they have any other things, but right now, it's not something I can move forward with, as far as I'm concerned. So, Commissioner Tyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll back you up on this, but to me, are we going to set the direction of this space as commercial? Or do we want to keep it as more agricultural, residential? I 100% agree with you. We're setting the direction for that neighborhood. And I don't know which way is right.
Yeah, because it's currently zoned agricultural.
Right.
And storage facilities are the
They're
appropriate
allowed.
use in agricultural, so that's not to
But
be, that's not the question. The
But if we
question
allow
is-
this, then
Right.
we're attracting more commercial into that area.
Right. And it just doesn't seem to fit, you know, if this was up in the other, in the industrial park across from your other ones, where that big, huge open field was, I'd have no problem with it, because now you've got commercial, agriculture, whatever it might be, and then you have the townhomes, the apartments, and then the surrounding houses, and it seems to fit. But this doesn't seem to fit what we're looking at that area for, and based on where the understanding was, so.
So I'll go back and reiterate, I would be supportive of it if the commission as a whole feels like we want to do commercial down there. If we don't want to do commercial down there, then we probably shouldn't interject something and spot zone it, in my view. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you are. Okay, Commissioner Peters?
Good question. What is currently, like, on the other side of Spiral Boulevard right there, that's also empty space right now?
Can we pull up,
What
like an
is
overhead view?
intended to go there? Because I'm looking, so that would be the south, and it is zoned agricultural, but,
There you go. There's the wider view.
right. So what's intended, because I think you're right, like, we have the development up on the top of the hill.
That's on Rushmore.
But then what goes even, because I can kind of see, like, is it all open space south of Spiral Boulevard? And if so, that's zoned agriculture, but what is it intended to be, you know, years from now? What's in the comprehensive plan there?
The comprehensive plan has all the surrounding property to the east and north and south as agricultural. The property to the, I probably have my directions. No, that's right. To the south is owned by the city, and we don't have any intention of having that area developed. We use that property for some miscellaneous material storage off and on. You know, on this east side, there's a lot of large lot homes that are there, so there's not a lot of potential for development of multiple lots. This area is outside of the municipal service areas, so it's had not been intended to be used as an area where there would be a lot of density or city utilities extended. You know, that could change with the relocation of the sewer plant.
But on here, it says on the comprehensive 2040 plan, it is designated for that area as industrial. So I get where my other commissioners are saying I have questions, concerns about the entrances and whatnot. But I do think that going by what our purview is and deciding whether or not, you know, we want something to be this or we want something to be that, I don't think we have that purview. We have to look at things as a case-by-case basis. I think based on what our purview is, I think it fits in this plan, this site plan fits. But there are concerns on the plan itself, the entrances, the stuff that Chairman Messina brought up about the concerns with the traffic and the turns in and out, especially during winter. I've slid down that road as well. So I think there's some things to really kind of look back and reconsider and think about. But I do think that this does fit what we're asked to do.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioner Albert. Commissioner?
Could I just make one clarification?
Oh, go ahead.
The comprehensive plan guides this property and the surrounding ones for agricultural.
Agricultural, yeah.
There was a misprint in one section of the staff report that said industrial, but
Okay.
the chart is correct that shows which all the properties are guided for.
Okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner, yep, Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question, something that shows up in the site plan that I don't know if it's really addressed necessarily, but there's those triple culverts that come across the end of Spiral. And I believe, and I was also wondering, Glendale's County 91, I believe, right? So I'm not sure if anybody at the county gets a pass at this or needs to get a pass at this. But I do know, just having seen it happen, being familiar with the area and some of the infrastructure, I've seen that overtop. I'm not sure if it's under capacity or, we've just been getting more intense rain events. But it does appear to cross over the corner of the property line. And then there's some pretty tight, side slopes and grading down into that ditch along Glendale. And I just don't know where,
The applicant wants to address this, but I do have a comment also. We did send a copy of the site plan to the county, and they responded that they don't review site plans.
Sure.
They only review work that's being done. They were involved in the major driveway that the owner put in onto Glendale Road on the northern lot, because it took quite a bit of fill and also has culverts under that. But
yeah, and normally the county's access changes, right? But just knowing the lay of the land out there, those triple culverts drain kind of the entire coulee as far up as 316, if not a little further. Yeah, and I've just seen a lot of water concentrated right at the corner of that building, 30 feet
yeah,
from the corner of that building. I just hate to have it become an issue. Doesn't look like one now when everything's really, really dry. But yeah, I've seen that entire intersection underwater, so.
Yes, I have two.
Can I-
Yeah.
Can I press it?
So that was I wrote down drainage. That was one of my other questions. I know it says here in the conditions approved, the city engineering department has to approve any required drainage plan. Yeah, that famous winter when we had, the waterfalls coming down the hill from the melting snow because it melted so quickly. Granted, this winter, nothing like that, but it overtook the whole entire intersection. It to the point where you couldn't drive through it. And that was with all of the foliage and all of the naturalness of the area. So my other concern is we took all that out, the trees are gone, it's now nice and flat. And now if we have another winter like that, and we will, okay, and we have that massive amount of drainage, or we have one of those rainstorms that we get, that water is now gonna come from those hills down from where those houses are above. And it's gonna come right down into those storage units. And I'll tell you what, it's coming at a fast pace because it's coming from Glacier, the houses up on Glacier. It's coming from Spiral Boulevard. It's coming from the houses up on Rushmore, and it's coming down those hills, and it all converges at that one intersection. I know the city, I'm not an engineer, Bryce is, but I'm not an engineer, but I'm just going by personal experience. I have seen that intersection and that property underwater for amount of time during either a large melt event or a heavy rain event. So just a heads up on that. And now we've taken that natural drainage out of there and replacing it with concrete and whatever else is going to be in there. So that's just my other concern. You want to go ahead and
Sure.
you got something to reply to?
Yeah,
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
was keep going, like I don't,
It's all right.
I apologize if
No, that's fine.
I'm not following protocol. So part of taking a look at this, starting from what we started with, involves a lot of conversation with John Hinsman. He's kind of our primary contact, and John Caven. And so we've probably been talking to them for probably since about October when we first proposed this. So that was actually, I think John Caven was our first call, if I'm not mistaken, because of exactly what you just said, water on the hill and water through the ditches. So as part of working with them and working well with them is listening to them and listening to, I'd say it's wisdom, but if we didn't listen, it might become just something they tell us. But my point is we listen, and one of the earlier changes was that we had a building, I should say, along in this area here, because we do have a lot of space where we could have built a building and it fit. But after working with John and both Johns, I guess. The recommendation was for aesthetics purposes, please don't do it, and for making sure that we protect ourselves in the way that you just mentioned from water rising, that we back off. And so we backed off and we added significantly more grass, and I want to say 25 feet approximately was added when the building was taken off. So along Glendale, there's a very larger strip that's on our property that we agreed to do. It seemed like the right thing. Also, this site has a natural slope to it, and that natural slope right now is kind of like this. But what happens when the pond gets built is that's perfect sand, and so what's going to happen with that sand is it's going to be layered across basically the eastern part of the site to bring it up approximately 6 feet, and then making sure that we have the proper grass or greenery is not quite the right word, but the proper turf, I think, to make sure that it is not going to wash away. And part of it is that we, at our expense, will be adding that riprap, which is those little dots right there, to protect us and protect it from washout for the county's perspective. So I think, and we had our engineer Johnson Schofield as part of all those conversations, and I think everyone's feeling that we won't have it, and because for insurance purposes, we probably wouldn't be able to insure it if we didn't take this. When it comes to the hillside, that was our first thing out of the chute was, and again, this was us just not wanting to create a problem where it doesn't exist, but we do, I think as you saw, we own, 40, 50, 60 feet up that hill. And the first thing we said is we don't, just voluntarily, we don't want to touch that. What you have working from there west is working. So we didn't, and we won't be touching any of that. And based on, now this is engineers, so I'm not going to be able to get into an argument or debate with anybody on this, except to say that how the water comes down is that it supposedly soaks in. But in case it doesn't, so the way the hill is designed and the type of soils that are there, that is what's happening, I'm told, and what will continue to happen. And again, because we didn't touch it, but we do have a very, very large swale that is not on this one, but a very large swale, and I'm going to kind of point. And a swale is a fancy way of saying a turfed ditch that is several feet down. So anything that would come off of there would be caught and this wide and deep ditch and then transported to the north side of the property. And that was, Johnson and Schofield and John Caven are pretty much the ones who have those kind of conversations, and obviously we're paying the bill, but we didn't disagree with them at all. We're going with what their expertise says.
Okay, perfect.
With regard to the driveway, I guess I've worked with the city of Hastings in the same group for probably 5 years or so. It's been a good relationship, and obviously that was something we want to continue. And so, just like I mentioned, the ditch was some feedback, and the water down the hill was feedback from the city. The city did, the team, probably about 2.5 weeks ago when we sit down with all the engineers from the city and ourselves and our engineers, and it was brought up that the driveway, while it would have been longer in length than the one that we have up at the top of the hill at our site at Spiral, the city engineers recommended that we add significantly onto here. So at this point, we do have, and so we definitely took that feedback and went back to Johnson and Schofield and made sure that it could work. Because again, we want to make sure that we have a good relationship with the city, because obviously we have many years here that, we want to work well with the city. It's just easier. So we have right now 65 feet from the Spiral Boulevard to the gate right now. And Well, so, and I think, and I say, I think, because I have to sit down with Johnson Schofield until they say it as engineers that it can work, doesn't matter what I think, but I think that based on what I know, even though we adjusted here in the last 2 weeks, basically redid this entire driveway, I think we see and understand also the feedback that came up, I think, last Thursday, which is, I think, what Justin was pointing to here today. So we're interested in doing that because we want to have a good relationship, and I think that also it will benefit us from having a softer turn once you do get in. With regard to the stacking space, let's say from what cars can stack, we do have 65 feet right now that would be from the curb to our gate. And right now, I believe we're about 30 feet at the top of the hill. So we doubled it from what we have there. Again, based on the city's kind of second round of feedback. And I think now the third round, we're hearing if we can round that off and make life easier for the fire department. You'd hear me as saying yes. I just need to sit down with Johnson Schofield and get to yes with them.
Part of the orientation is the clientele that will use buildings 1, 2, 9, and 3 and 8. They all face that 60-foot wide driveway for a reason. You mentioned coaches and travel trailers and people with 35-foot river-worthy boats. That's where those people will land.
They're larger storage units there.
Yep. And through our rental process, we would not feed those customers into a death trap in 6, 5, 7, and 4, obviously.
Just to be clear, it's not a death trap.
Yeah.
What we have here on the
My
east
words.
side, what we have on the east side is exactly what we have at our other site, which works very well, thank you.
I'm not the marketer, he is.
It does work well. I mean, city had some other feedback. They wanted a little bit more grass along Spiral, so
We did that as
of course we did that. I don't maybe recall offhand other things, but I don't think we fought or said no or tried to twist anything
No, they've all
to
been good
benefit us.
suggestions, yeah.
Just like this newest one's entrance change.
Yeah, Justin, you're the one that kind of helped us come up with the entryway as we see it for the stacking. I'm glad you said something because we would have probably regretted that long term.
My other question is, there's nothing in the conditions about no outside storage being allowed. And I do recall on the other ones, that was a condition. We just had it in there as a formality.
Yeah, I mean, we can add that condition. There's ordinances that would kind of prohibit it to a certain degree, because it would have to be screened. But yeah, we can add that in. I think that was a boilerplate one that we had on the other ones.
Yeah, so just for anyone that's planning to make a motion, I would recommend adding that as a condition if you so well choose. So. Okay, Commissioner McGrath?
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to comment that I do align with Commissioner Hallberg. I think that, they've met the zoning requirement. Agricultural allows for storage, so I appreciate the fact that they have listened to some of the technical expertise that's been offered and been good stewards of that information. I just wonder, because the big issue is the traffic, and Justin, maybe you can weigh in on this. Is there like some sort of abbreviated or short-term type traffic study that can be conducted, or anything that can be weighed in from that perspective? It probably doesn't need a full comprehensive traffic study. But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that our issue with the traffic was that we didn't want to have any vehicles hanging out into the roadway. Or cars queuing in Spiral Boulevard to turn in there. I think with the 60-plus feet they have is probably is pretty good insurance. The traffic volumes they have are fairly low. So I that's generally what you're going to have with the traffic study is to determine, the effect to the, the intersections and being able to get out and things like that. And that's not the concern. The concern is basically just, we want the cars to be out of the way if there's or vehicles to be out of the way if there are a couple of them. And I think we're fine with that. There's always the chance that somebody's not going to be able to make a turn into a site like this because of the gate is taking a minute to get open, or if it's any site and there's just, some cars, blocking the way, waiting for a spot or something. Anything can happen, but just that large amount of stacking area, I think,
Right.
addresses that issue.
And I second, he is absolutely right. Commissioner Hallberg is absolutely right. Purview, I'm a big fan of purview, right? It's within our purview. But I do have the personal experience of having lived in that area, and so I have seen cars park on Spire Boulevard at the storage facility waiting to get in. They'll just park right along the curb because either they don't have access or they're waiting for somebody else to show up. And I've watched it because I live there, I can see it. And if somebody is parked on Spiral Boulevard at this particular entrance, now you've got cars coming around. And if they're parked there waiting for somebody to show up or to get in because they don't have a code yet, or the gate doesn't work, and I've seen that happen, unfortunately. I think you're probably aware of it. The gate sometimes gets stuck up, and then, or the gate, they can't get the gate open and they have to sit there and wait. I've seen it. So my concern is if there's an issue where they can't get in, if there's an issue where they're waiting for somebody else, where are they going to park, right? And where are they going to park? They're going to park on Spiral Boulevard. That is not built to have any cars parked on it. It is only one lane. That's it. You have to go around the opposite lane of traffic to get in there. That's my issue is, again, from a site plan perspective, this is not a zoning issue. This is a site plan perspective, is that any cars parked on Spire Boulevard have nowhere to go. And I've seen it happen on, at your other one, not often, but when it does, you got to go around them. You have to go in the opposite lane of traffic to get around them, and it can create an issue. That's just my only personal experience. And there's nothing you can do about that, because if you're not there,
There is.
if you're not there, something happens, or the gate gets stuck up, or the gate gets stuck down, they have to work on it and figure it out how to get in there. But that's the traffic issue, the parking, the safety issue, I guess is the best way to put it.
So like any new system, there's a learning curve, and so the learning curve was with the gate. The gates all have a personality of their own. Some of them are, so we have two of them. So some of them are happy, some of them aren't. Some don't like snow, some don't like the sun. I mean, I'm over-exaggerating, but what we learned was, and so you wouldn't have seen that problem since July 1st. We've had 100% perfect, we figured out the system there, and there was a glitch that we had to work out with the software company. So we are now 100% with the gate always opening or always closing appropriately. So maybe just for perspective, so an average car is about 16 feet or so. A truck is about 18 feet or so. So with 65 feet, and everybody leaves a little space, we have comfortably 4, vehicles. If one of them has a trailer, it'd be, one vehicle with a trailer and 2 cars. So it does address, I believe it would address, I should say, the need not to have to stack on Spiral just by having the ability to do 4 vehicles. And that was, city's very direct feedback.
Okay, thanks. I am complete.
Commissioner Messina, wouldn't you hope people would use
Commissioner
common
Swedien, go ahead.
sense to not park on the hill on a busy road? No, okay. I was just,
Yeah,
it seems more dangerous potentially than 2030 Spiral Road, and so maybe to not park right on the side of that road would be a good idea, and, okay.
Yep. All right,
Or to put a sign to just say, really don't park here.
yeah, okay. Commissioner Tiken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be interested in hearing from the others, besides Commissioner McGrath and Hallberg, about the direction we're setting for this. So I agree, it's allowed in the agricultural area, but also part of our purview is to set direction for the city and what we want the city to look like. So if we want that area to be industrial, then let's go for it. And because I'm assuming that lot to the north, he's got the same idea, because industrial land probably sells for a lot more than residential land does. So he's gonna charge a lot more for it and make a lot more money, which is totally up to him. But that's the next thing we're gonna see as soon as this gets approved. He's gonna be, you know, hey, we can do something else industrial down there, because we kind of set the precedence for that. So with that, I'd be interested in hearing what others think, because I'm kind of on the fence on this whole thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Taken. Commissioner Peters?
When looking at this as an isolated space, if that's the only spot where something industrial would go, then, you know, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, but then I lean more toward yes. Now, if there's other space down there where all of a sudden it could, you know, more spaces like this be made, and then it does change the personality of that area, instead of having it be mainly agriculture with houses, but instead agriculture with storage or industrial, then I think it is changing the character. So I guess for me, if there's other undeveloped space that's zoned agricultural but could be this kind of storage, then that to me would change the character. And I think we'd be setting a precedence to change the character of that space. So I guess that's a question for you, Justin. The other undeveloped agriculturally zoned areas, how much of that is down there in that same general vicinity? Because, yeah, I think it would open the door to this kind of thing and change the character of that area.
Well, the zoning ordinance allows the use that they're proposing, so it wouldn't be something we can cite as a reason for denying the site plan application as the use. What our purview here would be is to approve or deny the application based on site-specific improvements. You know, how well is it designed? How well does it fit and work and integrate with the area? You know, are there, you know, if there's things that can be improved that would allow that to happen, you know, you can add conditions to do that, or table it for changes that would meet, you know, your ideas of how it should better fit with the characteristic of the area, or the, you know, access to the area, or other concerns you have specific to the site. Or if there's reasons that don't allow the proposed improvements to fit with the design of the area, and it would be incompatible the way that their site plan is arranged, you know, those could be, you know, possible reasons for denial. If you don't believe that there's any way to, you know, easily change the site plan that's in front of you to accommodate that.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Sweeney?
Is anything being done to prevent the owner from doing similar things to the north side of the property? Because part of me feels that this plan, which is beautifully worked with the existing landscape as the seller is presenting it to you, is only somewhat allowed because trees were ripped up that shouldn't have been, or like right, without care, essentially. Not that this couldn't exist with those existing trees, but I feel some of that beauty that, you know, the home buyers up on the hill had initially couldn't be preserved as places like these move in if the landscape isn't completely ripped and destroyed in the future. Because what I see is a plan that matches the zoning and matches like, it fits with everything that it's supposed to, but it also, you know, it feels such maybe a drastic shift because of things that were out of our applicant's control and done by the seller before they even came onto the scene. And maybe those things not happening in the future would prevent this type of what feels like a drastic shift. And our applicants are simply making a nice space out of what is there because it is a blank dirt pit now. But I don't know what can be done when you just ignore the guidelines.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Swedien. Commissioners, any other discussion? Otherwise, go Commissioner Tyken.
I'll make one more comment.
Okay.
They're not meeting up to the architectural standards for the site. Do we need that in the conditions or something?
Well, when I was under the understanding that the architectural standards, the buildings were similar to the other sites.
That's correct.
That's correct?
Correct.
When I was looking at the architectural elevation drawings, the labels I saw in there were R panels. Is that what's on your other sites?
So-
On the street visible sides?
Sure, so when we had our approval last time, we had it with a EDCO product or an R panel, and R panel basically, it's the same thing, it's just a different name for the same thing. So I don't know that a person would notice a difference, and last time, that's why John gave us the ability to upgrade. 'Cause basically what we're doing is we're putting higher quality materials overall on the front than I think the city rules required. And that was part of what John at that point had asked for, so we did that.
Yeah, so the requirement is 65% class 2 or better and 25% class 1 of that 65. And what you were allowed to do was 100% class 2. So it didn't allow any class 3 materials, but also didn't require you to put on any class 1
Thank you.
materials.
I didn't state that right.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry.
One of the biggest differences we found between the two, class 2 and 3, was that what you were proposing on those other ones didn't have visible fasteners. They weren't just face screwed on. What is proposed with this?
The R panels,
And are those,
they're the fastenerless.
okay, all right.
Yep, and that's why we got our approval
Yeah.
last time.
So it doesn't meet the architectural standards, but it's not necessarily worse than the architectural standards. The buildings are different than most buildings that we normally are reviewing, because these things are predominantly garage doors. So you're not going to get any attractive materials on any of the areas with doors. On some of the building sides that are most visible from the street, they're putting, some fake windows in there, and they're putting some pseudo brick kind of material on the bottom, and the metal panels are using hidden fasteners rather than, typical like sheet metal and screw heads that you'd see like on a pole barn or something. So with the last two projects, we thought that was a good compromise, especially since they're non-traditional buildings that are difficult to make good no matter what price or type of material you put on them.
So going back to my question, do we need that as a condition to allow it, or are we just going to look away and allow it?
No, it's explained in it's explained in the staff report.
Okay.
That the planning director has the ability to accept alternate materials, and that the proposal to have 100% Class 2 rather than 65% Class 2 and 25% 1 was acceptable.
Okay. All right, thanks, Justin.
Sure.
And I know I made a comment about adding the engineering, work with engineering to improve that driveway. What was your request for condition?
Just ensuring there's no outside storage.
Okay. So,
I mean, it's already covered technically, but I think it should still be in there. It was part of the other ones.
Sure.
If I remember correctly, just as,
so I'll go ahead and make a motion
okay, Commissioner Tyken?
that we recommend approval for the site plan 2024-10 storage rental facility at 2489 Spiral Boulevard with the, what is it, 6 conditions? I lost them here. There's 9 current ones? 9 current ones, adding a 10th of work with engineering to improve the driveway entrance, and number 11 to prevent outdoor storage.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Commissioners, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Swedien, second. Any new discussion? No new discussion? Okay. Commissioners, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Motion carries. And thank you for coming tonight and answering the questions. Appreciate that. And then, Justin, when will this appear at City Council?
Oh, I have a calendar up. It'll be going to the next city council meeting, which would be on the 18th, next Monday,
18th?
Yep.
March 18th.
March 18th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate
you
the
all.
opportunity.
All right, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. All right. Any other business?
Just a very brief update. The city council approved the kennel amendments that the planning commission discussed probably back in January. There isn't any scheduled business yet for any upcoming planning commission meetings. We're still expecting the application to come forward for the Walden development down on 316. And then probably the next meeting we have also, John would probably present the 2023 kind of planning-related recap that he does once a year.
Okay, perfect. Any commissioners, any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Alberg, motion to adjourn, second.
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Peters, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.